Town of Abingdon Planning Commission, July 22, 2024 to order. Welcome to the Town of Abingdon Planning Commission regular meeting. We appreciate your interest and we encourage public participation in our meeting. Your comments are important to our decision-making process. Please note that there will be two opportunities during your meeting to address the commission. The first will come at the beginning of the meeting when we ask for comments, public comment for items not on the agenda. The second opportunity will come if there's a public hearing when the chairman calls the hearing to order and asks if anybody wants to comment. Anyone addressing the commission will approach the podium, give their first and last name and the complete physical address. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes. Roll call.
Mr. Austin? Mr. Johnson?
Here.
Mr. Weaver?
Here.
Mr. Pennington?
Here.
Mr. Sproles?
Here.
Mr. Wilson?
Here.
And Mr. Schuman.
Here. Next order of business is approval of the minutes from the regular meeting, June 24th, 2024. Those meeting minutes were not in the original packet, but I think they've been furnished. Has everybody had an opportunity to look at the minutes? Are there any additions or corrections? I did not see any. If none, is there a motion to approve the minutes as submitted?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, next order of business is public comment for items not on the agenda. Is anybody signed up, or is anybody here that wants to make comments for items not on the agenda? If not, we'll move on to the first certificate of appropriateness. Abingdon Development, 174 East Main Street, Abingdon, Virginia, 24210. Owner applicant, certificate of appropriateness for allowance of an unapproved deck stage screening for mechanical equipment and screening for a dumpster located at 238 West Main Street, parentheses parcel 020-13-1 in parentheses. Staff report.
Okay, so this evening, as you mentioned, this is for a deck stage, which is painted brown, with a pre-finished dark brown metal railing, as well as screening for mechanical equipment located at 238 West Main Street. As you know, the applicant requested the allowance of this wooden deck stage to be constructed near the southeast corner of this addition. As we all know, it's called Abingdon Commons, and this location is going to be for Delta Blues Barbecue. The constructed stage is at its current location. You all reviewed it with me slightly at the last meeting to make a determination if we needed it to be a full application or if we thought that it still complied with what the general tenor of what had been approved. You all indicated that you did want the applicant to come and present. At the last meeting, we did have a presentation regarding the deck and the stage. However, you had several questions that could not be answered by the person who was the representative. So I asked the representative of the entire project to be here tonight to discuss this with you. As you can see, it is a stage with a railing. There is also, here's another view of it. There are stairs that lead up to it. It has been identified as for music. The second item on the agenda tonight is the fact that we now, in the last edits to the zoning ordinance, we now require mechanical screening around all mechanical equipment if it's on the roof or at the side of a building, which again creates a more seamless approach to what the tops of all of our buildings and how our skyline looks. The applicants are proposing a white fence mechanical screening, and you can see here in your application as well as on the screen that there are 3 areas where mechanical screening would be placed on the roof of this structure. The final item that the applicants are requesting is for a dumpster screening and enclosure as required by the zoning ordinance. The dumpster will be located here to the rear of the structure where we now have the old bank kiosk drive-through, which is currently Tumbling Creek Cider. and they're proposing to put the dumpster in that rear area. So with that, the applicant is here tonight to discuss the stage, the mechanical screening, and the dumpster screening with you. The only two staff recommendations is that all of the conduits, box, etc. be painted to match the deck and stage to create a cohesive aesthetic appearance. And finally, the applicant can explain to you why they would want mechanical screening on the roof to be white. However, staff is requesting that it be brown to match everything else that's out there, but I will let them explain why they would want it to be white, so.
All right.
Good evening. Nathan Berg, 24383 Walden Road, Abingdon, Virginia. And thank you for hearing me this evening. I guess leave it open to questions.
Last time we had questions, one, is the whoever's playing music out there, are they facing the building or the parking lot? Or either way?
They would be facing the building.
Okay. Is there any lighting involved with this?
There would be temporary lighting that you would bring out on, let's say, a tripod, but there's
Okay.
no permanent lighting that would be associated with the stage.
Okay.
Now, I guess the question that was raised, or the concern about the lighting was raised, how it might impact any kind of traffic either on Cummings or Main.
Remsburg as well.
Yeah, that's correct. So, I mean, I think the two questions were the lighting and whether and how or where the speakers would be either facing or the building or facing out, so.
So I would imagine the speakers would be facing the building. Obviously, the audience would be kind of seated below the pergola and up on the upper deck as well. In terms of lighting, again, this would be something that would be brought out on an as-needed basis. There would be no permanent lighting shining into the Remsburg or Main Street areas, but again, that's somewhat beyond the scope of construction or anything permanent.
Is there a reason this wasn't submitted originally?
It was an oversight. Originally, the music was to be played under the pergola. In several conversations that occurred with the tenant Delta Blues, they realized that they needed more space under the pergola, and at some point, the decision was made to put the stage out kind of along this bank. It also worked out well because there's, it kind of, anytime you have a bank like that, it's difficult to landscape, so it just made sense. And it just was an oversight that it didn't end up getting in front of the planning commission. It wasn't something that was, designed by an engineer or architect. It was sort of designed in the field. It kind of just, the scope changed sort of organically. It wasn't something that was, really meticulously planned out.
Okay.
One of the aspects is the planning commission always takes pride in trying to encourage business and what have you. Aspects of this nature in which the town actually has to expend time, energy, and money to go out and issue stop work orders on things.
I don't think that stop work order was ever issued.
Was one issued?
No, it was never issued. It
When was
came,
it?
the day that we found out about this, we brought it here that night, and then we told them that they had to come to the very next planning commission meeting, so.
Okay,
Yeah.
it was our understanding that,
No. After we all discussed it here, a no stop work order, I did go back and ask Caleb and Gabe.
But work did continue.
Yes, work did continue,
Yeah.
even after we said to.
Right, the
to not
rail, so
continue.
the rail had
Yes.
been fabricated, and instead of, for for us to be in compliance with OSHA, we need to protect that's a fall hazard. And instead of constructing a temporary 2x4 railing, we bolted down the iron railing, which was already fabricated. And again, that wasn't, we were just trying to make logical choices, sort of, ad hoc in the heat of the moment. And so,
Well, I mean, no, but as experienced as Wahlberg is, things changing on the fly. Again, design it, send it to us. I mean, it's no problem. We'll be more than happy to work with. It's just things of this nature, and we've worked with you all on this project numerous times, whether it's the sign, whether it's this, and to ask for forgiveness rather than permission is not always the best strategy.
Ryan, that wasn't our intention, and honestly, this was something that slipped between the cracks in terms of whether this had been approved or not. It's not an excuse, but we have a lot going on, and it just it was one of those things that slipped by us, and slipped by me, and obviously this is a less than ideal circumstances for us to be presenting it to you after the fact. That's definitely not how we would prefer to do things, but in this case, this was it was an honest mistake where something did it just slipped by, so I do apologize.
So tell us why the white screening for mechanical is preferred, please.
So the roof is white. And also just if you're kind of stepping back, kind of looking at it, against the sky, which is near the horizon, it's light, and we felt that the white would just stand out less. If it's the pleasure of the staff that it be the darker brown, that's fine. We're okay with that, but I think aesthetically it will look better white. But again, that's not I'm not super attached to that. Definitely willing to do dark brown if that's the preference.
So that's an old photograph that shows the.
Right, that's an old membrane roof. We put a new EPDM
Okay.
roof on it, which is white. We just thought it would stand out less if it was painted white as well.
Other questions?
As I say, I guess the brown, it just depends where you're looking at it from. If you're looking at it from here, seeing all the brown wood elements, it probably would look like it fit in. But if you were from the other side and you saw
Yeah.
brown on white roof, you'd be like, why is that color? So it makes no difference to me.
I mean, if the roof is white, seemingly, any screening should be.
Well,
white as
you
well,
got a white side of a building and you got a white roof, so it makes no difference to me. One other question.
Yeah.
Is where the cider company is now in the drive-through, will that building go away eventually, or is it gonna be used
No,
for
it'll be
something?
used for something.
Okay.
We don't have a tenant for that building yet.
Okay.
And we have neither a design nor tenant for the old drive-through building.
What about the proposed 3-foot fence? Is that going to go in?
It somewhat depends on the future tenant, and that might end up going in and might not. If once we figure that out, then I assume there would be a redesign of that space, and then at that point, we would resubmit for that location, assuming there would be changes to the exterior.
So for the record, you're not asking for the proposed 3-foot fence approval tonight?
Proposed,
On
I'm
the-
missing where there's.
Yeah, it's fine, it's here on the drawing if you wanna look at it.
Oh,
That's
the
where it's-
original drawing, right.
Yeah.
Correct. And I was under the impression that kind of was approved in the previous submission. If that changes, we can resubmit and ask, present basically what the new proposal is for the drive-through space.
We can check and see if it was part of an original. approval.
Either way, I mean, again,
Okay.
it's, no matter what, there will be a resubmission process for the drive-through area. I would anticipate, assuming that the new tenant would want to make changes or alterations to that building, which I could probably, I think that's probably will be the case. Again, I do, I do apologize for us getting the cart in front of the horse on the deck and the stage. It was one of those things that, honestly, when I got a call from, I'm not sure if it's from Mayanna or one of the staff, but just letting me know, hey, what's going on? At that point, I thought, oh my goodness, that's right. That was never approved, and somehow that slipped by us. So I appreciate your patience.
Other additions, or questions or comments? All right, what is the pleasure of the commission?
I'll make a motion that we approve, including the staff recommendations of painting the conduits and boxes the same color as the stage and deck, and then have the mechanical and dumpster screen be painted brown to match the existing deck and pergola.
Is there?
What do you want to do on the screening on top?
The screening on top, I think, in my motion, I would leave that to either brown or white, leave it up to the applicant.
Okay.
And the conduit and receptacles have already been painted.
Do you want, or do we want to memorialize what Nate is saying about how the sound is going to be done and the lights?
I don't think so, because it's temporary. It's temporary, and if it is shining the street, I'm sure the law enforcement would say, hey, turn this thing.
Right,
whatever.
what I would say is that we're leasing the building, and we want what we build, permanent fixtures of the building to be in compliance. In terms of what the tenants do, that, I'm relaying what they've told us and what their intention is, but it would be difficult for me to say this is always the way they're always gonna do things, because I don't have control over what they do. And so that would put us in a difficult position. Again, they have relayed to me that there will be temporary lighting and that the music will be played toward the building. That's what they've told me.
I think this doesn't necessarily have to be in the motion, but I think it would be well for you to convey our concern about how that's going to be done, and the fact that what you have told us is what we understand, that the music will be facing inward and that the lights will be temporary.
Certainly.
I think if you would do that.
Absolutely.
Is there a second to Scott's motion?
I'll second.
Okay. Any additional discussion? If not, if you would call the roll.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Weaver?
Aye.
Mr. Pennington?
Aye.
Mr. Sproles?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
And Mr. Schuman?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, the next order of business is Certificate of Appropriateness, Southern Appalachian Dance Center, 301 West Main Street, Abingdon, Virginia, 24210. Owner Jerry Sons, or I guess Representative Jerry Sons, 15775 Porterfield Highway, Abingdon, Virginia, 24211. Applicant Certificate of Appropriateness for wall signage located at 301 West Main Street, parentheses, parcel 011-1-80, end parentheses. Staff report.
Okay, the applicant is proposing to install a wall sign. Our Central Business District B3 allows an area of 2 square feet per 1 lineal foot of building face on which the sign is to be located on. In this situation, the wall is 45 feet in length, allowing a maximum sign square footage of 90 square feet. This sign will measure a total of 30 square feet, so it meets the requirements, and it will be placed on the front of this building. It will have an aluminum frame, pre-finished light blue with digital printed graphics applied to it. With that, I have no further comments, but their representative might want to add something.
Any questions or comments?
What's the color? Is that as presented on the building? Is that what's being requested, or?
I'm Jessica from Jerry Signs. I will assist with your question. I think that I can answer that. The proof shows the color a little bit different than what the client probably has given us. She gave specific colors, but it's a very light blue. It's very demure, and you can read it, but it is not always shown as accurate on the paper as what the final will be. But it is a light blue is what I would call it.
So the linear sign is the one that's being proposed and not these other three options?
Yes, she chose the linear sign centered on the front of the building. The 149 Suites has been removed from the top level, and then the 149 Suites that's on the bottom has been removed. And I believe the front of that building now is pretty much clear. And this would attach directly to the facade of the building with her name linear, and then there's a small blue shaped logo that would be CNC routed to kind of give it a little bit of, shape, not just a rectangle, and it's the light blue color as well.
This is the tenant in the front of the building. We've talked about access to the rear. This is.
Correct.
So we're not taking up signage on the front for.
Correct. As far as I know at this point, this is the only tenant that's actually going on the bottom floor. So he did come through and go through the process of asking for a special use permit to basically come out on the side of the building, or, he'd have to get an easement, yeah, and asking for a COA for the door. You all approved that. I contacted him again with no response regarding whether or not he wanted to come to town council to get the easement and the door approved through them, and he has not. So at this point, I am not entirely sure that anything other than the dance center is taking up that entire first floor, from what I've been told.
Without the side door, is the space
Mm-hmm.
legal?
Correct, yes. So they still have access through the alley.
Okay.
With with the other side door, once we really got into it last time, he actually wanted that as like a primary entrance for back rear space.
So he's keeping the one on the alley, and then you're gonna have the
Correct,
front?
yep.
Okay.
So as long as it's one space, there's plenty of entrances and exits. When he wanted to divide it, then that's where we had some issues.
Okay.
So the dance studio is gonna occupy both of those doors, or I guess all three of them.
Correct.
The one is a stairway. I think I left one as a stairwell at the
Yeah.
top. So it'd be
We have
just
like half
two
the
main
building
doors.
Yeah.
department here, and they're nodding their heads, so. But in general, that whole space right now is gonna be the dance studio, correct? Yeah.
Well, in regard to that linear signage, I move we approve this presented.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Any additional discussion? If not, if you would call the roll.
Mr. Johnson?
Excuse me. Aye.
Mr. Weaver?
Aye.
Mr. Pennington?
Aye.
Mr. Sproles?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
And Mr. Schuman?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next order of business, certificate of appropriateness, New People's Bank, 350 West Main Street, Abingdon, Virginia, 24210. Jerry Signs, 15775 Porterfield Highway, Abingdon, Virginia, 24211. Applicant, certificate of appropriateness for changing the existing freestanding sign located at 350 West Main Street, parentheses, parcel 019-1-17, in parentheses. Staff report.
The applicant in this case proposes to remove the existing freestanding sign that you see here on your screen on the left. And they're wanting to replace it with a new aluminum freestanding sign structure, black, pre-finished black, and an LED changeable sign, and that is in the rendering on the right. The existing LED internally lit illuminated freestanding sign with a white background and green lettering will be unchanged and will be utilized within the proposed freestanding sign structure. The existing sign measures 8 by 4 for a total area of 32 square feet. The proposed changeable sign measures 4 by 6 for a total area of 24 square feet. So within any business or industrial district, a changeable sign shall follow the same requirements in location, area, and height as a freestanding sign. Business district allows for a maximum freestanding sign area of 60 square feet. And so this existing freestanding sign meets those requirements. The proposed height is 14.5 feet, and again, it does meet the zoning requirements as the highest allowable sign is 15 feet. So a couple of things that are required for changeable signs is that the message shall not change more than once every 12 seconds. We also require that if the changeable message sign malfunctioned, fails, or ceases to operate, that is repaired, covered, or disconnected within 24 hours of a notice of violation, and the light emitted from the changeable sign shall not exceed 3-foot candles over ambient light. So we did ask Jerry Signs to do a lighting study for the changeable sign. The study demonstrated that the light emitted would be less than the maximum allowed, 0.3-foot candles over ambient light. You can see here in the, let's see if you put it in here, you can see here on the display in front of you as well as in your packet that actually we're not getting anywhere near the 0.3-foot candles over ambient light. You can also see here that both sides were analyzed where you would come at this from either direction coming along Main Street. The only request that staff had placed in here, if a suggested condition, if you all wish to put it on there, is that the changeable sign has to be dimmed from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. That obviously is your decision. It does help with any of the light intrusion that might occur on Main Street, because we don't have a lot of lit changeable signs along the way. So with that, if the applicant wishes to come and answer any of your additional questions, she's here for you.
I don't know if y'all remember a couple of years ago when William King wanted to put a sign like this at their entrance on Main Street, and we said no because it was too close to downtown. And so I think, to me, this is clearly a no for me, just because the precedent that we already set. We do not need digital signs downtown.
Now, in the interim, and I'm just not certain, do we have any similar signs in the downtown Abingdon footprint?
We haven't traditionally had a lot of changeable signs. I know about 3 years ago when we all first started working together, we went through the process with the billboard folks that wanted to come in and change all the billboards to digital billboards, and we said no to that. So we don't have a lot, but we do have some.
Yes.
And so perhaps the applicant wants to point out some of those other locations.
One of our clients, First Bank and Trust, would be one of the closest ones I can think of. And they're at the end of the street with their new building that's across from the Operations Center. They have a 4x8 electronic display. Moving back toward Main Street,
First Bank and
I
Trust.
don't think that I can think of one on Main Street. I know that the watchfires that we use, we've got one, at Dairy Queen that's been there for, 20-some years at the one location that's further down. We've got, I'm trying to think, the Moose Lodge out by us, there's electronic signs that are made well and have the software programming to make them something that's not what you can see as terribly distracting. They're controlled properly, and we have the ability to do that. But again, it is something that is completely a decision for you all to make. I know this bank is doing a kind of model on their image in their building, and they want to bring the signs up from the older corrugated metal look with the changeable by hand displays to give it, the faces will remain the same, the top, we make a new one, we redo the bottom to get rid of that base and take the rooftop off. That time and temp is something that those are so outdated that you can't get parts and you can't fix them anymore. So the best thing for them is, we've been manually fixing them, but you can also just take them out of the equation and say, hey, let's get something. You can put time and temp on this screen, 12 seconds for the screens. But primarily what I have seen them do is they group them, their marketing director controls them from one central location, and what they put on the signs is the same at each branch, and it's a photo of someone that works in the bank with something beside of it, or something they're offering, or simple text and things like that. I don't see them doing like disco display kind of things that are going to give people that are driving a huge distraction. They automatically dim at night. They can be set to dim to whatever level we want. So there are some things about these signs that I really do trust. They're American made. I can service them and maintain them properly, so they're not like what some things that are out there that can give bad impressions. I could see the digital billboards and stuff like that. We've seen those too, and I know they give a not a great impression of what a digital display can be when it's used to the regulations that are already we've discussed and asked them what their questions are, and if they would control it the way that we set forth, and the marketing director said no problem. So I do trust them and work with them closely.
And certainly understand and appreciate that, but I guess a precedent being set, and it comes back to that downtown area, what is defined as the downtown area. If you allow signs of this nature downtown, then conceptually you could have churches that can put these up.
Yes.
You can have Barter, you can have the Martha, you can have every business all the way down through there, to where all of a sudden, from an historic standpoint, it looks more like Vegas.
Right.
If one bank gets it, they'll all want it. The one at Powell Valley at exit 19 looks terrible. It always has a picture of somebody
That
in the
one,
bank.
we
a photo
definitely
of
did
that.
not
And
do it,
it's-
if that's any
not
consolation.
good.
We did the one on State Street that has instruments underneath it, and it was tied in to look like the guitar across the street, giving more of an artistic look for First Bank, and the one at the Pinnacle for First Bank. And New People's, we've done Pounding Mill and Honeacre, Bristol so far, and this is a continued process that they would like to, if we can. They understand that I'm presenting it to ask permission. This is
One thing that you could do, I think that there may be two issues. One is changeable, and the other is the fact that they want a newer sign because of technology. We potentially could approve the new sign, but say that it could not be changeable. Now,
Well, I guess before we even got to that though, what is the authority of the commission itself relative to the ordinance that's in place, that's been approved? So if this is the ordinance, then do we need, and we have the authority, I think, as a body, unanimously, to actually, and Maya, correct me if I'm wrong, to step outside the ordinance?
Yeah, so you all could, because you all are the body that looks at the certificate of appropriateness. So if you deem that this is not appropriate for the entrance corridor, you are allowed to make that motion.
I can guarantee if this is approved, William King will be in here in a couple months and want one, and then it's gonna be dominoes.
And I agree with you, and it gets back to what the town wants to market themselves as. If the town is marketing themselves as a historic town, tourist, and what have you, then the question really becomes, do you want that in the downtown area? So the downtown area then needs to be defined as to whether that's from Russell Road to
Well, we.
pecan or
We
whatever
essentially
that is.
defined it by our previous decision, which William King is part of it, and William King is further out than this.
Well, I mean, that's it, but,
Yeah.
you know, I always look for,
And then the other end, it's, the grow place probably, right in there.
Yeah, there's a bank there that has, but it has just the time and temperature. I don't think it,
Yeah, but I'm saying, in my mind, that's the other end of it, somewhere around the.
well, I mean, you could go up to Thompson Drive
Yeah,
at CDS. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
something,
yeah.
something of that nature,
Yeah.
but, I mean, again, that's a question for everyone on the board as to, and I agree with you. I don't, signs of this nature in the downtown area, I'm not in favor of. But what does the ordinance say? And then what's our authority within the confines of the ordinance?
Because right now it meets the ordinances as we have it in place.
I think so.
And again, and I would have to go back and look at minutes as to, how long ago was that? Do we have any idea when that?
well, Marcy was the director, so it's before Betsy came back, so.
We made the William King
2018,
sign
2019.
for the two signs that they do have.
Yeah.
We made, so it would have been around that time probably. And
Yeah.
I wanna say it would have been 2014, 2015.
Okay. I know I've been on this that long.
It was Betsy,
That's
I believe,
scary.
or it was the previous person that was
Because
in charge.
Marcy was the one that came in
And I didn't
here.
know they even wanted one.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
We made the-
It was a big deal.
next
We had
one,
a
yeah.
huge debate on it. And, it got heated.
So we have the entrance corridor, and then we have, within the entrance corridor, the OH district. So we've never defined like a downtown district. So we've never gone into a 3-layer mentality. It's been entrance corridor and then OH. So the OH is even, as Jessica knows, very strict with 4 square feet and, you know, the idea that they're very small signs and not lit and all of that, so.
And in the entrance corridor, you're taking in other areas. Cumming Street and what have you coming in, which you've got the large Food City sign,
Correct.
you know, that's already been approved there.
Mhm.
That's a commercial area.
Mhm.
The downtown area of Main Street, right, wrong, or indifferent, I view differently. Now, it's whatever the ordinance says, though.
Correct.
And that's the hangup. I'm not in favor of signs of that nature downtown, but I also understand from a black and white standpoint, the applicant coming forth and saying, this is the ordinance, we're in compliance with the ordinance. So that was the reason for my question. What authority do we have if they're in compliance with the ordinance, other than being unanimous, or 6-1, 7-1, 6-1?
Is this something we table and have an opinion given to us for the next meeting?
We definitely could do that if you all would like to. Because yes, going through and trying to determine on the fly whether or not we think we have the full authority, you know, it is all related to the look and feel. So, you know, we've got everything from, we went through this with the car wash, for example. So it's basically anything that has a look and feel about it, you all have the authority to say, no, the look and feel does not match within that area. And it has a lot to do with adjoining, what the adjoining parcels are doing. So some things have actually been more flexible when you think about the adjoining parcels, like the Fiddler sign being so large. We could have brought that down, but then after full research, it was like, well, we have all of these other adjacent signs that are all this tall as well.
But
So-
if I'm the
Yeah.
applicant coming before you, and this board has that authority, it's really subjective. You know, as far as, hey, I don't like that there, I don't like this here, what have you. It's better to have an ordinance, here's what's required. And then, you know, if you meet these requirements, then it's gonna be approved. I'm in favor of tabling it to discuss it, but if this came before a vote, then if it meets the ordinance, it meets the ordinance.
Mhm.
I'm not in favor of it, but this is what it says.
So,
I think two things. One, I think we should table it.
Okay.
Two, I think that the other thing is, and this is something is one of the things they're saying is that the sign on the left is obsolete. So what they need is some sort of a sign. So what I'm gonna suggest is that, knowing the issues that we presented to you, I think it would be wise maybe to go back to New People's Bank and say, look, I think we can get the sign without the part of the sun, that's changeable.
We can still
Because-
remodel that sign and bring it to a new look and keep the changeable message center that you change by hand that's there now, if we need to. We can remove that old time intent that's broken and looks rough. So we can improve the look of the sign and have another option ready for you that does
I
not
think-
include the
I mean,
digital.
I think that would be a wise thing to do, and we table it.
so,
I mean, that way she can go back to her, people that she's reporting to, and you can tell them what our concerns are.
Yes.
And that you see if there is another option, and since we're gonna table it, it doesn't seem to me it's reasonable, A, to table it, then come back and then say, go back to your client and ask for a
Right.
change. I think we'd be better off having all that discussion at one time.
We can
But I
further
do-
discuss it and also bring back an option B.
Okay. Do we need a motion to table that?
Yes.
All right.
I'll move, we table this, and until we can get, I guess what, a legal opinion or definition of our authority, I guess, is that?
If you want to just table it, and then what we'll do is we'll just move further into really what would be considered part of your,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that will be legal, or if once we look in a little bit further, without trying to look in on the fly, we'll have a better understanding of how much you can ask for with signage. Because with buildings and some of those other things, they're really focused on the surrounding area, so everything needs to be coordinated and matching. I don't know for sure that it says anything about signage, so.
Okay, so that's the motion to table.
Okay, is there a second?
I mean, I'll second it.
All right. Any additional discussion? If not, if you would call the roll.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Weaver?
Aye.
Mr. Pennington?
Aye.
Mr. Sproles?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
And Mr. Schuman?
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, it looks like number 4 was withdrawn.
Correct.
Okay. Number 5 is the zoning text amendment, addition of Virginia Erosion and Stormwater Management Program. Staff report.
The easiest thing for you all to do is just to open this as a public hearing right now for this
Okay, do you
and the
wanna-
next item, just so that you don't forget it in the mix of anything, so.
And that would happen? Okay, I'm gonna open the public hearing then.
Okay.
All right, gentlemen. Howdy. How y'all doing?
If you all want to just say next slide whenever,
Okay. Yeah, we
unless,
can do it.
unless that works up there.
I'm under strict orders to keep this abbreviated as possible. So if there's something in here you guys want me to slow down on, but most of you guys in your professional careers are probably pretty familiar with this, so it's mostly this was for public information, this, our slide was, so if you just want to go to the next one, we'll jump into it.
Do you want to say who you are versus?
Oh, yeah. I'm Isaiah Thomas in the Community Development Department. This is Hagan Gill. He's the program administrator for the Stormwater and Erosion Sediment Control Program for the town. So what is ESC and stormwater management? We'll go to the next slide. Erosion sediment control is simply when you have a land disturbing activity and it's permitted, there's control measures put in place to ensure that all the sediment or erosion that can be from that site is kept on that site. If you guys have probably seen this before, this is silt fence, but essentially anytime a rain or storm activity creates erosion, the sediment and erosion control is put in place. We'll make sure that that is kept on site and not flown into any storm conveyance systems. Go to the next slide. And then separate from that is the stormwater management. So erosion sediment keeps the sediment control on site. Stormwater management monitors and controls the water flow off the site and on the site. So anytime you have a rain event or a storm event, you're going to generate stormwater, and the stormwater managements help control the flow of that water off the site and also help control the quality of that water off site through the construction phase and post-construction. All right, go to the next slide. So how did we get here? To boil it down pretty quick, as you know, we have developed quite a bit since we landed here in 1607, and back when it was all forest, it was impervious area, and you have the natural rain cycle, and as we develop more impervious areas. Forestry becomes agricultural land becomes houses become roads become giant concrete pads, and all that subsequently is larger and larger, more impervious areas, which increases the runoff of water, and that has to go somewhere. So with that, as we developed in Virginia, you can go to the next slide. This is just, I'm not gonna go through all this, but this is a brief history if you guys wanna read it of how water control has been in Virginia. It's been around for quite some time. It's not a new thing. It's over 100 years old. Originally, it was the State Water Control Board was put in place for the manufacturing and industrial side. It was for the discharge and the withdrawal water from waterways. In 1972, the federal government passed the Clean Water Act, which the State Water Control Board was Virginia's portion of it. Each state had to have their own. This is mostly involved with pollutions, so discharges in the waterways. In '89 is when you first saw the actual control of land disturbing activities from the state. That's when they first started permitting stormwater management and erosion sediment control, and it's separate from previous stormwater or water control measures, as the previous ones were mostly pollutants, and this is the first one monitoring land disturbing activities and how that's going to affect runoff. 92 is when the DEQ was created. It absorbed the State Water Control Board, so it was still over top of the pollutants, and DCR was still over top of stormwater management, erosion sediment control. And then in 13, they gave the State Water Control Board to the DEQ authority. So it's all, in 2013, it was all under one authority instead of being two, same kind of regulations, but in two authorities. Go to the next one. So why are we here today? So previously you had erosion sediment control, and it had its own permitting procedure and also had its own regulations. You also had stormwater management, which we previously discussed, but had its own permitting procedure and stormwater regulations. They overlapped quite a bit. There was some discrepancies between the two, even though they were both being permitted in the same process through the same state agency. So part of the current state administrations was to go through and kind of get rid of some of those redundancies and streamline things. So effective July 1st of this year, the state adopted what they're calling now the Virginia Erosion and Stormwater Management, which essentially tosses it through the entire state as one uniform ordinance. You go to the next slide. So why do we have this ordinance? So we're not a state regulator. Because the town operates an MS4, which you can read here, is a municipal separate stormwater system. It is not a sanitary sewer. It is all your stormwater conveyance systems. So anytime you have a curb inlet, curb and gutter throughout the town, you see it run off from the road, the town has one of those. And because we operate one of those, we also have to operate our own stormwater program. With that also comes the erosion sediment control program. It's separate from other places. DEQ operates it for them in other places, as they don't have their stormwater system. But because we do, we operate our own. It's permitted through our office, and then ultimately we send it off to the state. A lot of advantages by us doing it is it allows us to streamline development. So anytime we have someone coming in and they're going to do a development, not only do they come before you guys, but to the planning commission, not only do they come to our building department, but also their stormwater management side also goes to the community development department. And it helps everybody talk a lot easier. State departments do a good job, but it seems that people like working when they come in to the town of Abingdon because everything's done here, and our review process seems to be a little bit more collaborative, and also things, I think we're around 35 days, in the state sometimes up to 6 months. So we're a little bit quicker than them. So it's a big benefit for us to operate our own stormwater management program. Go to the next one. All right, so this is pre-24 erosion sediment control ordinance and the stormwater management ordinance. Those are separate in the town ordinances. Going forward, we're asking to do erosion and stormwater management ordinance in one combined ordinance, and this is brought from the model ordinance the state suggests. This is just a quick map, but you can see all the there's really only 20. There's not that many. There's towns and city authorities operate their own MS4, and then all the green counties are the local authorities. All the white DEQ operates. You can go to the next slide. So the previously adopted ordinance was in Chapter 30, which is the environmental ordinance. As erosion sediment control, which at 10,000 square feet, if you have a land disturbing activity, that's when you just have to have the ESC measures in place. So you're not having to do any of the stormwater reviews. You're just strictly adhering to the erosion sediment control measures and making sure that all on-site sediment is kept on site, but you don't have to follow any of the stormwater management review part of it. And then stormwater management, those additional requirements, that's where your water quality and water quantity come in place. Anything over an acre of disturbance, that's when your stormwater management kicks in place. You have to start looking at, when you do have rainfall events, what you're going to do with your water. You can't simply just let it sheet flow off the site. This was in Chapter 30 previously. I think it goes on the next slide. I think it talks about this one. No, it doesn't. But it was in Chapter 30 previously where they hosted it. When we started looking at this adopted ordinance, they kind of suggested to be on land use, which comes before the Planning Commission. So that's why we're proposing it to be in Chapter 44 instead of Chapter 40, just based on state ordinances across the state. This proposed ordinance will combine it, streamline the ordinance, going to move from Chapter 30 to Chapter 44. It will be removed from Chapter 30. We're going to completely strike it, and then we're going to put it in Chapter 44. The town ordinance will not specify technical requirements, so anything we review, we're based upon the state requirements. So this is simply just the permitting process of it, and it's reviewed against the state regulations. Next one. So this is just some things that are slightly different from what the state requires in the ordinance. We reviewed the model ordinance. So the town staff, we added these are two things that we added that are a little bit more stringent than what the state requires the town to have. So peak flow rate from all permittable land disturbing projects greater than 10,000 square feet must be less than pre-development. So we looked at some other similar ordinances. So right now, if you have a 10,000 square foot land disturbing activity, you would just have to meet the erosion sediment control requirements that the state lays out. We were proposing that anything under an acre but over 10,000 square feet would have to have a water reduction less than the peak flow rate before the land disturbing activity. We've talked to DEQ and we looked at a couple other localities, and just due to Abingdon's development and the fact that we've had the flooding issues we've had on East Main and several other places, Abingdon was built on 3 streams. There's a lot of water in our area. This will allow us, if someone came in and they wanted to grade off, a 10,000 square foot lot, but they wanted to put it all back in asphalt and have no way of controlling the water flow off that asphalt parking lot, we would have some oversight of that project. We wouldn't allow them to just completely make an impervious area, even though it's under an acre of land. They would still have some regulatory power on that. It also, the curb and gutter, so we've kind of been enforcing this through the town already. This, really what we're doing is kind of codifying it and having it written in something that we can reference. But any development that's on a frontage that provides road frontage, if there's curb and gutter within 2,000 feet of that development, we're going to require that they also extend curb and gutter on that same street. It's something we've already been enforcing already, but we kind of wanted to make sure that we had it written somewhere that we could reference it. And then just so you don't want to make anything, sometimes you can't see the future, so down the road, if this is something that, is hard to enforce, you never know what product might come up, this can be waived at the discretion of the town manager. You have that in there. And then you go to the next one. This is just showing you the regulations. So that was before what we had previous to 24, all the different regulatory procedures we had, and this is what it will be now, our new red book. Quite a reduction in litigation there. Go to the next one. Any questions on that one?
How does this fit within Washington counties? I mean, are you all working, is the town working with Washington County, Derek?
So
as far
the town they have their stormwater management ordinance as well, but since the town's an MS4, we're our own authority. So we report directly to the state from the town.
So whenever you're developing a site, it's similar to if you're doing sewer.
Mhm.
Like conceptually, the developer could be required to go downstream, and you're looking for pinch points,
Mhm.
you know, all the way down, and improve those. And the town is dealing, just like you alluded to right now, the town is dealing with all of the water coming out of White's Mill, all the way down Town Creek, going across. There's limited areas, you know, really limited resources or alternatives to handle the water, other than if you're over 10,000 square feet, you're gonna have a detention pond on site,
Mhm.
to where your post-development doesn't exceed your pre-development. Are you all handling any mitigation? Are you getting into phosphorus, anything of that nature?
Yeah, so anything that goes through the 1 acre land development all has to go through the quality standards, so the phosphorus reduction, you're looking out your.
Which means you gotta go through and either buy credits,
Right.
or you're
Right.
putting in different aspects.
Yeah.
I mean, different treatment vessels on site.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and that's the thing with the 10,000 square foot is, you know, we won't be explicitly asking anybody that's doing anything under an acre but over 10,000 square feet to do the analysis on their water quality. But if they're having to make sure that it's less than the pre-development, then we're likely gonna have to do
Yeah,
that
it's
analysis.
the same thing,
Yeah.
DEQ. It's the same thing DEQ's been
Yeah.
doing for a while in Washington County. They've given the authority to Washington County, but it's still DEQ has the oversight of it.
Yep.
And there's a lot of, I understand the reasoning behind it, but that's a reason a lot of the development goes to Tennessee.
Mhm.
Doing projects in Virginia, just because of the mitigation, you're immediately 100,000. You can add 100,000 to a project, you know,
Yep.
just trying to mitigate. And Scott's very familiar, you know, with those, but I understand the reasoning for it. But again, how do you all fit within Washington County? I mean, is it, you're separate?
They don't.
From-
They're
Oh, yeah.
separate.
We're totally
Okay.
separate, almost like another county within Washington County, just happens to surround us. And like that, the more stringent requirements we have, that for the pre-development, post-development, that would only be for something less than an acre, because we'd have to do it really for something an acre or more already. So that would just be, like, for instance, if you had a .99 acre lot and you just wanted to pave it all, then you're just directing all the runoff right into Town Creek, right up here above where the culvert's at. We could, you know, step in and be like, you know, if it's redevelopment, it would be easier for them. You know, they could just put some pervious areas in, stuff like that. But this it could lead to like underground detention systems going in or something like that in a parking lot if it was smaller.
Yeah, I mean, it's the development potential development on White's Mill, the potential development on Valley and Hutton's property. You know, those are 3 acres, 5 acres. All of this, in fact, and I understand the reasoning for it, how that all came about is everything flows into the Chesapeake Bay, the watershed.
Yeah.
We don't flow into the Chesapeake Bay.
Yep.
So, I mean, all these regulations that were promulgated by the state, that's because of that watershed.
Yeah, so, and that's one thing, on this is, cause I didn't highlight that, but all single-family residencies will be agreement on loose. So it's different what you're talking about, but I need to point that out, that if you're just being in a single-family residency, it's an agreement in lieu of plan, so you don't have to go through these stormwater measures on a single-family residency. In regards to what you're talking about, if we could, as far as the 10,000 square foot and the post-development requirements that, you know, we're imposing, even if we strike that, you'll still statewide will have to enforce.
Yeah, I mean,
Our delegates, you know, they've filed 3 separate bills for that water quality, Chesapeake Bay water quality, and it's failed every time
Yeah.
because,
Well,
one, people don't believe we don't drain the Chesapeake Bay over there, and
but to some extent, aren't we required to do some of this basically because of Dillon's rule? So we're not in a situation where we can basically say to the state, we're not gonna comply with what your requirements are.
The
I mean,
portions of-
we don't have that leniency.
No, yeah, the portions, that we highlighted there, and if you wanna go back mine on one slide, we can look at it. Or 2 slides. Portions of the peak flow rate, that's something that we impose or proposing here as a staff, and then the curb and gutter, those are the only 2, things that aren't.
Everything.
In our state requirements.
Yeah.
We basically, this is procedural, we basically have to do it, and then, like they said, there's only those 2 items. And I agree with the 2 items they have myself, so. There's not.
I've got a problem with the overall.
Yeah, I will say, from a
But, I
standpoint.
mean,
But we're stuck with that.
No, we are, and I acknowledge that. I mean, it's just, I understand.
Yeah, I will say from a standpoint from going through this, the 24 regulation update, 2011 was the last time they did it. They actually reduced somewhat the TMDL,
I
phosphorus.
guess, yeah, the phosphorus loading in the 24 regulations, which they will now have a year to use either one, like the previous 2019 or the 2024. They've kind of rearranged that, like they have a spreadsheet, the runoff reduction method spreadsheet that you calculate the water, like phosphorus reduction you'll have to have. So they've actually rearranged the spreadsheet, and it is a little bit more forgiving on an impervious area now on how much you'll have to do, but it's still the requirements. still
What you
there.
end up doing is you call T&L. T&L does a calculation for you.
Yep.
Then you come back and say, okay, how much mitigation land do I need to put aside for conservation easement in order to
Yep.
disturb this amount?
Mhm.
Yes, or
Like,
purchase
there's-
nutrient credits,
That's it.
from a nutrient bank in the Nair watershed. or
Yeah,
something like
and
that.
those are few and far between.
Yes, I think there's
Yeah.
2 in our watershed.
I mean,
so it's
well,
all
and the minute they
over.
come up,
The
they're
problem
gone.
is VDOT buys them all up.
That's it.
They do.
That's it.
Yeah.
They buy a ton of them,
Mhm.
and then you're out of luck, but.
Well, one thing for sure about the curb and guttering, and I go back, we've had this discussion some time ago. If we don't require that from when it's done, then potentially the town has to come in and do it. And that's been a problem with sidewalks over the years. We've allowed development without the sidewalks, without the curb and guttering. Then when it becomes necessary, the development's there, town has to do it. So in my mind, I like that idea about the curb and guttering, and I think potentially the 10,000 square feet makes sense to me. Again, because what we're gonna, if we're not careful, we're gonna end up with the town having to do mitigation that the developer should have to do when the development is designed.
Is there action we need to take tonight, or is this just
Yes, it is
public
a,
hearing and then next?
it is a zone text amendment, so you all need to make a recommendation to the town council.
Okay, so we can do that now, or we have to close the public hearing
Yeah,
and then do it?
We can stay open in the public hearing all the way through the next item as
Okay.
well. So you don't have to close, you need to ask for public comment, however, there's no one here. But we're in a public hearing throughout the next item as well.
Okay, I guess the question is, and I don't see anybody wanting to make additional
Yeah.
comment, but I'm gonna at least ask that. All right, we can move on to the next item.
So if
Thank
you
you.
all want to make a motion on this, and then we'll make a second motion, we'll make a separate motion on the floodplain one, so.
I'll make a motion that we recommend approval to the town council
Okay.
for the text amendment for the Virginia Erosion Stormwater Management Program.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Okay. If you would call the roll.
Mr. Johnson?
Reluctantly, yes.
I'll put an R next to it. Mr. Weaver?
Aye.
Mr. Pennington?
Aye.
Mr. Sproles?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
And Mr. Schuman?
Ah, okay, now we can move on to the second one. The next would be the zoning text amendment flood hazard overlay district, and the public hearing remains in session.
All right, this one should be quicker and not as complex as that one. So this one we are proposing in section 5717, which is elevation and construction standards. It's really just the addition of which zone we're actually talking about, because the section references a chart above it. But then, like as you see in 5717-2C there on the slide, there's actually no section or subsection in the section 5717 that includes zone A. So there's really, doesn't give us any guidance on elevation or construction standards in that zone. So we just thought it would be better just to go ahead and get it in there. That way we know, because it's, make it simpler when you're sending it to somebody, you know, what the requirements are. If it actually says, they can look at the zone and know what they're gonna be, what they need there. So, yeah, 1A is clarification that that's zone AE. 2B is clarification of zone AE or zone A. 2C is the addition of text to include a zone A. And then you go down to 3B, text to include zone A as well. Next slide. So, again, why this amendment? It's gonna allow us, this is how we previously have interpreted it, and it also interprets the table above it, which is table 5716, and then it provides specific information for standards in zone A areas. That is it. Do you have any questions?
Questions? All right. Is there what's the pleasure of the commission?
So you have to ask for public comment.
Well, yeah, I guess I should ask for public comment, but
Okay.
it's done.
Well, I will then make a motion that, this is again recommending to town council that we accept this zone text amendment for the flood hazard overlay district.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second it.
There's, okay. Can you call the roll?
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Weaver? Mr. Pennington?
Aye.
Mr. Sproles?
Aye.
Mr. Wilson?
Aye.
And Mr. Schuman.
Aye. So we're gonna close the public hearing. Thank
Yep.
you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, the next order of business is old business, not on the agenda. Discussion concerning availability for special called meeting August 12th.
We still have a quorum, so, but is this a yes or no on August 12th? Do you have any idea? As you're walking out?
What day of the week is it?
It should still be
It's a Monday? I
still
can't.
should be a Monday. It is a Monday.
Yes.
Okay.
For that.
Okay.
Thank you.
So, there was an issue with, the advertising for this parcel. And what the request is actually a zone map amendment. And so staff indicated to the applicant that if there was, the ability for us, I know this last time our minutes got mixed up by having 2 meetings in 1 month, but we'll be better this next month. If you all were willing to have another meeting on August 12th, we would try to have this item on the agenda. Let me type in the parcel here so you all can see where we're talking about.
What is everybody's, I'm available to do that if we need to.
So we're looking at this property here off of Trigg Street. And let me put the zoning on here. And so, as you can see here, this is currently zoned AFOS, cultural, and the applicant is wishing to actually create a parcel with a smaller width than is allowed in the AFOS, so she's looking to actually come in and to do a rezone on a portion of her parcel. So that's what the request is. And she just asked if you all would be willing to do it on August 12th. If you are not, we obviously have a regularly scheduled meeting in August.
Is there a compelling reason to have another meeting?
It's really at your discretion. She was hoping to get in sooner, so,
I've got a conflict
okay,
on that. I've got an airport mission
okay.
that night.
I mean, I think if there's not, I guess, if there are people who can't attend, then there's not a compelling reason for us to have to do it, then I don't see any reason to call a special meeting.
Okay. That's totally fine. So we'll just take it at that unless anybody else had any more comments. Okay.
I mean, it'd be more important, at least from my perspective, to have everybody here.
Correct. So the final one tonight is another sort of an interpretation one. These that are a little bit squirrely, I bring to you all, and then we make a final decision together. So this is the sign that is located, there's the large Hampton Inn sign with the additional businesses that are on it. And then there's this leftover freestanding sign structure that I think used to be part of the business that is for the building to the left of the Hampton Inn. Our ordinance actually would require this sign to be removed because it has been there for a business that no longer has a operating business. However, this has been here for years and we've never asked for it to be removed. So Bristol Sign Company is wanting to actually paint it. They don't want to put a new sign in it at this moment, they just want to paint the structure. So before I bring them in front of you all to talk about the colors, again, this is the whole COA portion that you do, I just wanted to make sure that you all would agree that this sign could remain, or if we follow the actual letter of the ordinance, that I would require them to actually remove this sign.
Do they own the sign?
The building owns the sign, that is part of the, yes, the building owns the sign. However, I am sort of unclear why we want to make it look better. But yes, and let me pull it up here on the, pull it up on the map.
What business is it?
Well, there's no business left there anymore. You all would have to tell me what used to be in there. Was it a trading post or something, is what I remember? What I understood was that it was a trading post.
To the left of the Hampton Inn? Right
Yeah,
there,
so
the
right here,
market thing?
the market thing, yeah. So let me turn
Okay,
off
I was
this.
thinking that was the little restaurant or something, but no,
Yeah,
that was for the.
I think it was a restaurant at one time, like it's
It
this
was.
parcel right here. Maybe it wasn't ever a trading post, maybe that was further down. Isaiah would know more about it, but,
No, that's where Figure Eightos had
okay.
That's, I couldn't remember the name.
yeah, I mean, they sold,
What was the name now?
Figure Eight, that's where, Figure Eighto had they were selling.
Oh, yeah, back in the back there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But that was in a little cabin, not the restaurant that used to be,
It was an Italian restaurant, wasn't it?
yeah.
What was it, Isaiah?
It was Bonanza originally, wasn't it?
Italian
Years
Village.
ago.
Yeah, I think that's, yeah, that's.
Portobello's.
Yeah, it was a Bonanza
It was a
before.
Bonanza originally.
Yep.
Bonanza, yeah. So,
We've been here a while, haven't we?
yeah. So, again, this sign is supposed to be removed, but, you know, signs tend to be our
Well,
greatest weakness, so.
Somebody is directing Bristol Sign Company to do that, correct?
They are, yes. So the owner of this parcel wants the sign to be
Who's
painted.
the owner of the parcel?
Atlantic Coast LLC. It's just that, you know, when it is brought to our attention, in general, I mean, now we're very much aware if a building, if, you know, we have code compliance officer, so if somebody moves out of a building, we're much more aware of like, hey, you need to take down the other sign, or the Commons, you know, sign got put up in the back for Tumbling Creek, and then we're like, that sign has to come down for your new sign to go up. Like, we're very much aware, but this sign has sat there for quite some time.
Is there anything to prohibit the business from applying for a new signage whenever
No.
a use, you know, I mean, if that's the
Correct.
case, then
They could definitely apply for new signage. So, I mean, in all reality, to try to eliminate sign clutter in general, it would be preferable that they would actually join
Correct.
this large sign and not actually have a secondary sign here. I mean, in general, that's not what we want, because I think that our entire goal with these types of signs is to ensure that we don't have sign clutter. So, strict interpretation is to remove it, and that's what I wanted to do, but I also wanted to make sure, the privilege of being in this role says that the planning commission can help me make those types of decisions, so,
With no tenant wanting to use it immediately, I would think it should come down.
okay.
I'll
All right.
second that.
All right, well, that's all we have for tonight.
All right. Anything else anybody has? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we're adjourned.